Here's what Joel Richardson has to say. The king is said, speaking of the Antichrist, he's said to oppress the saints of God for a period of time that most Bible scholars agree is 3.5 years. In other words, a time times and half a time. And we're going to find out later on that this time period is also mentioned in Revelation. So it's not something that we have to guess at. Joel continues. But eventually, speaking of the Antichrist, his dominion will be taken away and replaced by the kingdom of the Most High God, something I just mentioned earlier. Let's keep reading Joel Richardson. 300 years later from Daniel in the book of Revelation, the Apostle John likewise describes the Antichrist and his beast empire in very similar terms. So now let's pull a quote from the book of Revelation, right? Kind of like a little teaser for us. John writes, "And I saw a beast coming out of the sea. He had 10 horns and 7 heads." And I might pause and interject. 10 horns, 7 heads, and 10 crowns on his horns. Let me interject and say that this description of the Antichrist, this beast coming up out of the sea in Revelation chapter 13, is very, very reminiscent of the beast that's already described, the dragon that's described in Revelation chapter 12 that John sees. And he's also described as having 7 heads and 10 horns. It just reverses the wording there. So the Antichrist beast is described as 10 horns and 7 heads with 10 crowns on his horns. But the dragon, who is Satan, is described as having 7 heads and 10 horns. Just reverses the order. But like father, like son, right? The Antichrist is basically the son of perdition, the son of the devil. And so if his father is the devil, then it's no wonder that his description of the heads and the horns is very similar to his papa. Let's keep reading John's revelation, or the revelation of Yeshua given to John. "And on each head a blasphemous name. The beast I saw," so we're talking about the Antichrist that John is looking at. "The beast that I saw resembled a leopard," right? This is reminiscent now of Daniel's prophecy in Daniel's 4 beasts vision of Daniel chapter 7. Remember, there were 4 beasts. In order, there was the lion, then there was the leopard, then there was the bear, and then there was the 4th beast, which isn't given an animal description other than just the word beast. So 4 beasts, but the first one is the lion, which is Babylon. The second is the leopard, which is Greece. The second one is the bear, which is Medes and the Persians. And then the third one is the leopard, which is Greece. And then the 4th one is the strange beast. But notice in John's revelation, the same 4 beasts are there, but they're in reverse now. The beast, he says, I saw resembled a leopard, but it had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. So the lion is the one mentioned last, which was the first in Daniel's. The bear was the second one in Daniel's, but here it's the third one. And then it talks about the leopard so we got the leopard, the bear, the lion, and it's the beast itself, which is the 4th one in Daniel. But here in John, it's the first thing, right? So the beast that I saw. So that's the point that you're supposed to clue into. So it had feet like those of a bear and a mouth like that of a lion. What does this mean? Likely is that it's going to be a composite beast, composed or composited of characteristics not just of those beasts that Daniel saw, but more importantly, composited of the beast empires that Daniel was describing. So this final 8th beast will somehow have some of the characteristics of Babylon, Medo-Persia, and Greece and Rome before it. The 4th beast in Daniel would be the Rome, but Rome was also the beast itself, that 4th beast, which is Rome / not Rome, right? A little confusing because there's a now and not yet feature going on there. A little bit of prophetic telescoping. So let's keep reading this quote from the book of Revelation, and I believe Mr. Richardson's going to explain what I'm just kind of getting ahead of myself. The book of Revelation says, the dragon, remember that's Satan in Revelation chapter 12, the dragon gave the beast, which is Antichrist, gave the beast his power and his throne and great authority. This is why we say that the Antichrist will essentially be Satan incarnate, right? The man of lawlessness, like Paul calls him, or the son of perdition, like I believe it's the book of Titus, whatever describes him as, or the book of John. So, or one of the first John, the first, second, or third John, one of the smaller letters. Revelation continues, men worship the dragon because he had given authority to the beast, and John mentions that they also worshipped the beast. Notice there's what we call divided worship, but that ultimately is centered in Satan. So Satan gives the Antichrist his power and authority. So men worship the Antichrist, but this means that they're ultimately worshiping Satan. And John tells us this matter of factly. Men worship the dragon because he'd given authority to the beast, and they also worship the beast. Even though from a human perspective, they may not realize they're worshiping Satan when they end up finally worshiping the Antichrist. When the time comes, they might not realize that it's Satan who's giving the Antichrist his power, and therefore they will not realize that it's satanic worship. But the Bible, make no mistake, the Bible says that it's satanic worship. Ultimately, the root of the worship that's directed towards the Antichrist will actually be satanic worship. And we're going to find out later on that there are religious systems already set into place, not just within some forms of Christianity like Catholicism, but Islam itself has a way for you to worship Allah and yet also direct worship towards other people like Muhammad or something like that. The Mahdi. You can worship the Mahdi and you can worship Allah, and it's not blasphemous, right? Even Christianity has kind of a sense of that, where we worship God and we also worship Yeshua, who is God's representative here on earth, but yet is also God incarnate. So we're worshiping Yeshua, who's a man, but it's not idolatrous because Yeshua is very God. Well, in the Islamic parallel, the Mahdi must be a kind of representative of Allah here on earth in order for worship to be directed to the Mahdi, and yet at the same time you can still direct, as a Muslim, your worship towards Allah. Well, the Bible says they're going to worship the Antichrist, and yet they're worshiping Satan. So you see how that's kind of paralleling there. And so John says the people who are on earth, they worship the beast, and they ask, who is like the beast, right? Who can make war against him? It's kind of this adoration for him. The beast was given a mouth to utter proud words, right? This harks all the way back to Daniel chapter 7, to utter proud words and blasphemies. And look, here's the part that's a little alarming for Christians: to exercise his authority for 42 months. And what is he going to be doing for those 42 months? Well, he's given us space to exert his authority and to persecute Christians and those who oppose him. Revelation continues, he opened his mouth to blaspheme God and to slander his name. Keep reading. And his dwelling place, right? That's Jerusalem, the temple, and those who live in heaven as well. He was given power, watch this, to make war against the saints and to conquer them. So this idea that, the devil doesn't have any authority over me because I'm a genuine believer. Well, in the spiritual sense, that is true, right? As true believers, there's only so much damage that the devil can do in your life if you're living obediently to God and listening to his spirit, and you don't have copious amounts of personal sin that's plaguing your life as a believer, right? If you're giving the devil a foothold, well, then he's going to take that opportunity. He's going to exploit that weakness in your life, that chink in your armor, that open door or open window that you've afforded him. If you're trying to live your life as a genuine follower of Christ, and you want to have a powerful witness in your life, but at the same time you're watching porn all the time, that's not going to work, right? Because you're opening up doorways to the enemy and allowing him to cloud your judgment, and he's gonna have strongholds in your life. So within the scope of living your life as a Christian, ultimately, obviously, he who is within you is more powerful than he who's in the world, right? Yeshua is within us. The power of God lives within us, resides within us if you're a genuine child of God. And so therefore Satan can't ultimately touch you unless God allows it, or you allow those paths into your life through, I just mentioned porn, but that's just one example, right? Drug use or violence or jealousies or factionism or adultery or fornication or you name it, occult involvement, or in any number of different doorways into your soul and into your psyche as a Christian. But what we're reading here in the book of Revelation is something entirely different. God actually gives Satan a measured amount of persecution over the saints of God and to conquer them, to actually kill us as believers. Yeshua says this as well. We're going to get to this eventually in Matthew and in Mark and Luke, the Olivet Discourse, right? Yeshua warned his disciples, they're going to haul you into the synagogues, they're going to haul you into their places, and they're going to think they're doing God a favor by killing you, taking your very life. So there's going to come a time when Satan will have a measured amount of persecution over the saints of God. John continues, and he was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation. Notice the universal global scope of his persecution is not just going to be in Israel, people. It's not just going to be there in the Middle East. Eventually, as I keep mentioning, it's going to spill out over to the entire world. John continues, all inhabitants of the earth. Listen and repeat after me. All inhabitants of the earth. Right? That's not just the people in the Middle East or Jerusalem where the Antichrist sets up its headquarters at the midpoint. No, all inhabitants of the earth will worship the beast, all whose names have not been written in the book of life belonging to the Lamb. So we're talking about people who aren't believers. We can call them earth dwellers. All those people who don't have their names written in the book of life belonging to the Lamb who was slain from the creation of the world. So that's Revelation 13:2, 4-8. Now let's listen to what Joel Richardson has to say about what we just read. So he's going to comment. While the symbolic language here is fairly thick, if we understand the biblical usage of particular symbolic terms, then the picture is actually quite clear. The beast, again, refers to the Antichrist, who is a king over a 10-nation empire. We're reading from Joel Richardson's book, The Islamic Antichrist, which is available not only on his website, but is also available in HTML version like I'm reading now at answeringislam.org. So follow the links in the description of my video below, and you can read the book for yourself in its entirety. Or if you want to support Joel's ministry, you can buy it from Amazon.com. The link is also in the description below. Joel continues. The horns that John talked about represent authority and power. 10 horns speak of both an extremely high degree of authority as well as the number of nations and their kings that will unite to form the beast's kingdom. Joel continues. The dragon who gives the beast his authority is Satan. And we know this from reading Revelation chapter 12, the chapter earlier than the quote we just pulled from. Joel continues, Satan is often spoken of in the Bible as a dragon or a serpent. The global impact of this beast-like empire is made clear by the phrase, quote, and he was given authority over every tribe, people, language, and nation, end quote. So Joel says we see the specific question that the people of the earth ask is, and this is the question that we read in the book of Revelation, who is like the beast? Who can make war against him? Joel remarks, it appears to those on the earth that the beast is absolutely beyond challenge. And let me just interject. This gives us kind of an insight into the scope of his influence and his apparent military might as well as political power that he's going to be exerting at the time. So it seems like when we read to the prophecies that the Antichrist is going to kind of start off very maybe innocent, very small. He's even going to suffer some defeats from some setbacks in his political career here and there. But eventually, once he reaches the midpoint and Satan is cast down to earth, right? End of Revelation chapter 12, Michael and his angels make war with the devil and his angels in heaven, and the devil and his angels, or demons, they lose and they get cast out of heaven permanently, and they're cast down to earth. And the devil, I'm paraphrasing, the devil, because of this, he's very angry, and he goes off to make war with the woman, who is Israel, and the rest of her offspring, that is, those who hold to the commandments of God and keep the testimony of Jesus. So we're talking about Jews and Christians, and this takes place at the midpoint of the week. Right, that's when the Antichrist is fully revealed to the inhabitants of planet Earth, both believers and non-believers who will be alive at that time, and it will begin what we could call the Great Tribulation, because it's the wrath of Satan that's poured out before the wrath of God itself is poured out afterwards in the final, we might say, final quarter of the seventh week. So the point is that at some point in time, the earth dwellers are going to still be adoring him. They're going to be giving their worship to him, and he's going to be implementing his worldwide beast system of taking the mark, right, the number of his name, worshiping the image that's set up, or it could be images. The Greek allows for either one giant image or several smaller images along with one large image. Could be either or. And we have the mark of the beast that's put on either the hand or the forehead, or you take the number of his name, which is 666, etc., etc. So you gotta have one of these in order to survive during that day. So it's no wonder that people are saying, who's like the beast, right? Who can make war against him? In other words, this statement from the earth dwellers indicates that he will have enough military might and enough political power and apparently enough resources to actually control whatever portion of planet Earth that he wishes, right? He will be basically unchallenged. So Joel says it appears that those on the earth that the beast is absolutely beyond challenge, right? They'll think that. Of course, we've read the end of the book. We know that he is not without challenge. We know that ultimately Yeshua is going to challenge him, and praise God, Yeshua is going to defeat him. So let's keep reading Joel here. And again, we see, Joel says, the same specific period of time that was given to the beast to persecute God's people as 42 months. 42 months is 3.5 years, which is 1,260 days. And it's mentioned in a few different places in the Bible in various ways to kind of give us the confirmation that we're not just guessing when we talk about this time period. It's the last half of the seventh week. 42 months, like Joel says, is 3.5 years. And this same time frame was given in the previously cited passage of Daniel 7:25. Let's keep reading Joel Richardson. We've got about 20 minutes left in our study, and we're making great time. Joel continues, thus we have seen that the Bible prophesies that the Antichrist, I think there's a typo there, it says prophecies, but it's prophesies that the Antichrist will be a political and military leader whose power will be unparalleled by any other world leader throughout history. You could think of it as all of the previous beast empires rolled into one final composite beast. Like we mentioned, we've got in order, and I'll flash a little graphic on the screen so you can follow along. There were 7 beast empires that preceded this final 8th beast empire, and in order they are Egypt, Assyria, Babylon, Medo-Persia, Greece, Rome, and then after Rome, which is the 6th beast empire. The 7th beast empire is a bit vague because it falls into that time frame on the eschatological map known as the gap or the church age. So it's not entirely certain which empire that ruled on planet Earth was that 7th. There's a good amount of support for it being the Nazi regime ruled by Hitler at the time. During World War II, that could be a candidate. But there's even an earlier candidate, according to Joel Richardson, that fits the bill maybe even more scripturally, which is the Ottoman Empire or the Turkish Caliphate, and so ruled by ruled by Islam at the time. So that could have been the seventh beast empire as well. So it's one of the two. But either way, the point is that by the time the Antichrist establishes the eighth beast empire on planet Earth, it will have a scope and power that was never before really even actualized by any of the other previous seven. And yet at the same time, it will be kind of a composite of all the seven rolled up into one. So I mean, imagine, the wicked pharaohs, the wicked rulers of Babylon, the wicked rulers of Alexander the Great in Greece, Antiochus Epiphanes in Syria, and then we've got the wicked Caesars that persecuted the Christians in Rome, and then throw in there we've got the imams of the Turkish Caliphate or Hitler, depending on which view you take on who's the seventh. We roll all of those wicked rulers into one man, and we'll call him the Antichrist. That's what we're looking at in the future.